Well, hello everybody and welcome to another video. First of all, I've got a fever, and I might be coughing a little bit throughout this video, so I do apologise for my sickness. I usually try to not record while I'm particularly ill. Maybe I could just edit around a lot of the coughing and spluttering that'll be going on, but I do really want to shoot something here today because there's been a bit of Guild Wars 2 news, and there are a fair few fun things to discuss. Now, look, I want to be very honest here at the start of this video. I wasn't really excited to make this, so yesterday, just as I was getting ready to meet with some of you guys for the Ceres LM group, I heard that ArenaNet had just dropped this, new information, a teaser for the next patch, so that's largely what this is, and a roadmap for the next couple of months. But obviously I had something else going on at the time, moved on from it. When I finally got to watching the trailer, look, I was pretty underwhelmed. Look, I've made no attempt to hide, really, the fact that I'm not enjoying the post-patches for Secrets of the Obscure. I think the launch stuff around the Wizard's Tower, around the Wizard Society, a lot of the world building and extra detailing they gave us with like the timeline of Tyria and new details about old elements and relics and things from the original game. I think all of that was pretty good and definitely a good starting point for mini X packs, but these post-patch releases, ever since we hit the Demon Realm and, we kind of had a new cast of characters at the Wizard's Tower, and now we have another new cast of characters in the Demon Realm. It's too quick, we needed to spend more time with the people that we were initially established with and the ideas that we initially had. So I haven't been enjoying these patches really at all. In fact, my stream series on just doing like Let's Plays of the current Guild Wars 2 story, I haven't even finished. I'm doing all these other Let's Play projects you've probably been seeing getting spammed out on the YouTube channel, and many thanks to those of you who have given those a shot on watching them, by the way. Hopefully that's been rewarding. But I'm doing those, and I haven't even finished the main Guild Wars 2 stream stuff at the moment. So, yesterday, a trailer comes out, and what's it going to be? It's going to be more generic-y demon stuff with eyeballs in the walls, and, well, I just wasn't that excited. I also wasn't that excited about doing a video where I go online and just bitch and moan and piss for ages about things that we've already ranted about 100 times. Like, after Ceres yesterday, I just went straight back to Guild Wars 1, which has had a lot of cool news. They've had a real announcement about Toolbox, which is kind of allowed. You can see me using Toolbox in the footage here, and that's confirmed to be okay now. They had a bit of a conversation about a Guild Wars 1 game director recently. There's the Luxon and Kurzik double faction weekend, so this is me clearing the Maishang Hills to finish my Luxon title. Yeah, I just went and played this instead of watching the trailer. All that said, the trailer actually released with a proper roadmap where they explain some of the other things that are coming up very soon. And, this whole thing with Arena, obviously we had the weird Guild Wars 3 thing recently, but they've also got this statement that they're committed to Guild Wars 2, and then they're going to keep doing engine updates to Guild Wars 2 and QoL features and stuff like that. There's been some announcements on those kinds of things, and actually I'm quite impressed by a lot of those. So there is hope, and I do have some things that I'm quite excited about with the game. So let's roll on in first, I suppose, with a trailer. Now, don't expect much of an analysis. This thing's very short. And really there's not much to say, but as I always do with my videos, I'll splice it in. Let's have a watch. So here, what I'll do this time as well is I'll provide commentary as we go. I don't usually do this, but there's not much in this trailer, so may as well just talk about it while it's on screen. So yeah, it's going to be the final conflict with Epoch. They're building it up like it's the climax of the Return of the King, and it's the end of this massive saga, but of course it's only been a couple of patches. So I think that causes a lot of weird feelings in me as I watch this trailer, but at the same time, these trailers are being made to appeal to people outside of the product and make it look like there's big cool things going on. So I don't know whether I can really blame it. It just comes down to that thing of what is the correct scope size of a story to tell in a mini X pack. Probably not this. This was too big, particularly just for 3 living worldish patches, right?
Children of Nyos, you have lived in nightmare for millennia now. Not one day longer.
So here we're looking at Epoch's Tower, which you can see very prominently after the meta as of the previous patch. And is clearly where this has all been leading. I was really hoping that this third patch would redeem the Demon Realm somehow by staging most of its content inside that tower, where the environments are very distinct and diverse from where we've already been. So it feels fresh, so it feels like there's a new adventure. Exploring a really wild demon tower, kind of bookending the expansion. We started with the Wizard's Tower, and then we have the Demon Tower. I thought that would all be really cool, but all we really get, as far as I can tell of it, in this trailer is this shot. So in fact, most of this trailer seems to be shots of places we've already seen. Like on Reddit, I remember I read a comment from someone who said, why is Neighborlag featured in this trailer again? That was the previous patch's content. So yeah, I'm still interested in this tower, but I don't know whether we really look at very much. There is an interior shot we'll see in a second. The Midnight King lies in wait.
Every hour, more of my soldiers die.
Kind of another sympathetic side of him. You know, they were hinting there was a bit more to the story in the last part.
I fear we march to our end.
Win the throne or lose everything.
And finally, she brings herself before the throne. I've been waiting. Princess of Traitors.
So I guess that's an interior shot of the throne room there. I do love I mean, honestly, this is the thing I probably liked most out of the whole trailer. I love the key art here of this throne. The subtitles say Princess of the Traitors, but he only says Traitors out loud. Now, here's probably the most interesting thing about the trailer. They do a stinger scene like they used to with the old trailers when Guild Wars 2 was launching. So here's the stinger. It's a little teaser of a bloody room, a shadow, and that's it, and some kind of raw sound. Now, I'm wondering if I need to speculate more about this. Look, I know I can be fairly oblivious, right, guys? I honestly have no idea what this is hinting at. It's just a shadow. Like, this either is something really cool that I'm totally oblivious about. Please leave me a comment if you think you have a clue about this. Or it's like they felt obligated to have a stinger scene in the trailer, but had absolutely nothing to put in it, so they just did a shadow. Like, I don't know, there needs to be something pointed about a scene like this, right? This is just a bit of ambience in a random room. I don't think there's anything to draw on. Oh, a shadow, it's Menzies, guys. Menzies, we haven't talked about Menzies for a while, right, guys? What's kind of weird as well is of the commentary I've read about this trailer in the past few hours. I mean, it's not been up very long. I haven't really seen much speculation about this at all. Like, did this capture any of your imaginations? What is this thing? And there you go. That's the trailer, guys. So that's the final patch. Really, I don't have anything else to say. I will get back to doing my streams. You know, now we are actually on the cusp of finishing the story. We can properly review it. If you watch the last episode I did, there's a lot about this story that's really hard to judge if we don't know what the actual trajectory of the Paitha thing is. Does Paitha betray us or does she not? Depending on which one of those actually happens, massively changes whether I think this was well written or interesting in any way. So I'm excited for the end to be there, and then we can do like a proper retrospective and go through it. And of course, I'm going to keep working really hard to have other content and things going up in the meantime as well. So with that bit done, let's move on to the studio update. Now, there was a lot I read here that I really quite enjoyed, and hopefully that means some of you guys watching this will feel in a similar way. They open with the introduction of this trailer. Really, it's more like this trailer came out with the studio update. And they say, in the final update for Guild Wars 2 Secrets of the Obscure, the Midnight King will arrive next Tuesday, May 21st. So yeah, nice close release date as always. By the way, I didn't take the time to say that. They have a statement here which drew quite a bit of ire online, and I have to say fairly so. This content will be available for free to all current and future owners of Guild Wars 2 Secrets of the Obscure. I think there's a quote maybe in the video as well where they say, play for free if you already own the expansion, which is kind of ridiculous since, you know, this stuff was advertised. You already paid for it. It's really interesting, actually, like the consumer psychology of this stuff. I think someone on Reddit had the comparison of, okay, if you went to a restaurant and you bought a 4-course meal, they wouldn't bring the dessert out to you and say, oh, this was free because you bought the meal. No, I paid for this dessert in the original price. But because we've waited 9 months for the final thing, like they're to keep with the restaurant examples, they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, right? Oh, it's free now. If you already owned it, I don't know, there is something vaguely unethical here at the very least, right? It seems like a bit of a weird statement. Anyway, they say these final story chapters will bring the commander deeper into the world of Naos to the citadel of Zakiros. I'm sure if I looked up, you know, Latin or Greek terminology, that would be something interesting about that. Where the indomitable Midnight King himself resides. These story chapters come with expanded playable space to the inner Naos and a climactic meta event chain. In addition, this release also includes, now some of this information was in the trailer itself on that splash screen at the end, but they say there is the Lonely Tower. This is our latest fractal dungeon. That's an amazing name, by the way, the Lonely Tower. I was just talking about the Wizard's Tower and the Demon Tower, and now they're talking about the Lonely Tower. I love towers, man, in fantasy settings. I've realized more and more, you know. When I think about that star sign in Elder Scrolls, the tower, or like even towers just within Guild Wars lore, the Vizier's Tower, tower-based jumping puzzles, the towers are cool. Anyway, so is that going to be some kind of fractal set in the Wizard's Tower at a different age, where Isgarin is alone? Or is this gonna... I kind of hope it's not a Waiting Sorrow thing, because Waiting Sorrow is really captivating to me, and to think that all of that setup is just going to be used for one little fractal would be a bit disappointing. But hey, and as far as I know, we don't really know anything about that. There's not a separate fractal trailer, which you might have thought they'd do. I don't believe the fractal appeared in the trailer or anything. We used to get trailers that would showcase everything, but you know, what did we get from this one? Anyway, so the Lonely Tower, I am dead excited about that. T2 Legendary Obsidian Armor. I haven't even made my original set. You know, in the current Wizards Vault season, it's saying to start crafting it. I don't have that objective done. I mean, I have everything bought on the season that I can buy anyway, so I don't really have very much motivation. But, and I have been doing convergences. I'm pretty sure I got the materials, but something about it just hasn't captivated me. Refreshed Wizards Vault rewards and challenges, and 6 new relics. I haven't really seen much conversation about this, but look, I kind of like the sound of that. Relics are cool. Buildcraft is cool, and these have an impact, not just on PvE, you know, and the potential to power creep you, but they're fun for shaking up both World versus World and PvP as well, if they are interestingly done, and hopefully ArenaNet have got a better sense of what fun relic effects might be now that the original sets are out. They say they'll spend the next weeks monitoring the fractal dungeon and balancing the encounter if needed. Now, they say that. I feel like that is very similar to... That's a mindset that's born out of what's happened with Ceres LM. You know, they looked at the tuning there. It was very, very heavily tuned. In fact, bugged. It was originally released. They fixed the bug, but they kept the tuning, and they would just watch very closely, right? And I feel like there might be something similar. That's just how they want to operate now, and I think they're talking about that there a little bit with the Fractal Dungeon. On June 4th, it's going to get a CM as well. So the CM will be staggered out. And all of that is very exciting, I have to say. Speaking of challenge mode, and now this is out of nowhere really for me, we're excited to announce that the release on May 21st, so with this patch, it will have a new challenge mode for the squad-based version of Convergences, and it's 5 legendary bosses. So yes, a 5th legendary boss is coming. So in this CM for that, you'll fight amped up versions of each encounter while dealing with stricter resurrection rules. You'll earn extra rewards for your efforts, and achieving a gold-ranked clear time on all 5 encounters will net you a new title to show off to all your pals. We're also adding an in-game leaderboard for all 5 bosses, so you can compete with your friends for the fastest clear times and bragging rights. So this is kind of crazy, actually. First of all, if you look at the expansion roadmap and the idea of a mini X-Pack, the point was to do 2 strike mission CMs, 2 big endgame focus things for the 10-man groups, and then 1 with a fractal, okay? And that's what we've had. We had 2 CM releases for the strikes, and the fractal is upcoming. So there's always a bit of endgame going on. It's the 5-man scale at the end. But that does mean that if you wanted more 10-man boss killing, if you really loved Ceres, for example, on the previous release, well, you're shit out of luck because it's only a fractal here. And that was always a bit lamentable. But here, what they've kind of done now is they've said... And obviously the other lamentable thing with all of this is that the first one, Dagda at the Cosmic Observatory, that didn't have a very good CM, right? But that was just a matter of tuning, and hopefully in the next mini X-Pack they'll resolve that. So that's the state of the game as we've known it. 2 patches for 10-man, 1 for 5. But then out of nowhere comes this, where look, if they're adding a CM to the Convergences at a 10-man scale, they're kind of giving us that 3rd raid experience, right? Except it's not fighting 1 bosses, it's going to be multiple bosses and stuff, so it's different. It's kind of like, and then also it's sort of like an adventure at the same time, which kind of makes it feel like its own format now. Obviously they haven't given a name for it. But if this goes well, guys, I don't see why they couldn't do this kind of leaderboard timer-based thing. for all their 10-man endgame stuff, right? Why can't we have in-game leaderboards for that sort of thing? So I think they're sort of using this as a testing ground for maybe something like that. And in the end, actually, I view this as a big win for Seekers of the Obscure in terms of, hey, there's something extra 10-man to do. Now, because this is totally out of nowhere, and they are, at the end of the day, just convergences, and we don't know how well they would have tuned it or changed it. We don't know what the 5th boss is going to be like. Because it's going to be random, I don't know how difficult this is really going to be. I don't think you'll necessarily prog on this or whatever. It feels like it's its own thing. But I wonder whether that'll be a staple of expansions going forwards or what they'll learn from this. But it's nice to see fun, weird, new initiatives coming in. And, you know, it's weird, guys. I've done about 30 convergences, maybe 40, somewhere around there, which is quite a lot, honestly. And they get a very bad rap. I don't mind a bit of grind, really. Like I say, since the faction bonus just started in Guild Wars 1, that's basically what I'm doing in that game. And I'm alright with convergences, so I kind of like the idea of doing this challenge thing and seeing how it goes. So then they say, finally, we have 3 exciting quality of life updates coming with this release. First, squad messages will now appear when hovering over commander icons in the minimap. This will make it easier to identify the purpose of a squad, especially when you have multiple commanders operating in the same map. Yeah, that's going to be really nice user experience there, because just imagine you load into any map, anywhere, there's lots of tags, you want to know, what are they dedicated to? Are these guys just doing bounties? Are they here for the meta? You're in World vs. World. Is this a small Havoc group, or is this well organized? Is this a big Zerg? You can just, you know, mouse over before you even join. They also say, second, by popular request, we're adding a nifty accessibility upgrade that allows players to customize the color and shape of the targeting reticle when using Action Cam. And finally, we're increasing the guild membership limit from 5 to 6 for all players. Time to make some more friends. Now, you might wonder, why would they up the guild membership from 5 to 6? They will explain that in a second. It's to do with the World vs. World restructuring, so don't worry. The Action Cam thing, I feel like they very specifically put in that sentence, by popular request, because they knew that a lot of long-term nerds that play on mouse and keyboard are going to roll their eyes and say, oh, nobody uses Action Cam, it's bad for the game, who would ask for that, what a waste of time. So they put in by popular request. And it's funny, actually, a lot of the commentary of this post, I've seen a lot of people saying, yeah, cool, I use Action Cam. I actually toggle into Action Cam sometimes. It depends on the content that I'm playing. And I've seen a lot of people, obviously Guild Wars 2's on Steam now. They're saying that Action Cam is quite good on Steam Deck. So I can kind of believe that. So anyway, yeah, here's a little screenshot of the Action Cam reticle settings. I don't think this is too amazing anyway, to be honest, guys. It's just a basic little overlay thing. Can't Blishard do stuff like this anyway, as of a long time. But, you know, somewhat nice. And if you use Action Cam, good for you. What I will say, what does give me heart with this is, again, this is just more examples of, like, this is not what you do to a dying game or a sunsetting game. You know, these are very ticky-tacky little engine updates and quality of life things that you only put in if you expect the game to have legs for another 10 years or so, right? This isn't something you bother with if, oh, we're just moving to Guild Wars 3 in a second. So when I see stuff like that, this is proof to me that that statement I mentioned earlier, that they're committed to the game, is actually true. I know it's very easy to be cynical with companies and businesses and say that they're just lying and deceiving you. And maybe there is a little bit of that sense of, oh, they're just trying to get us over the finish line while they develop something new. You know, there might be a bit of that going on, but at the end of the day, if they're still putting patches like this in the game, this makes the game feel alive to me, even though I barely use Action Cam and it doesn't really mean that much. Anyway, so speaking about the guild thing and World vs. World, let's move on to the next section here. This is World vs. World updates. It's that time again to hear all about how world restructuring is happening, even though it's still moving at a snail's pace and will still just be in beta. They say it's happening, is it now? We're excited to announce the world restructuring system will be moving into an always-on beta status, beginning with the World vs. World reset on June 14th. So it kind of really is happening now, because if it's going to be an always-on beta, when it leaves that always-on beta, it's just going to be always-on. So it kind of is turning on. But note, that's not with this patch. That's not even the patch after this patch. That's way out in June. But they say the feature's been a long time coming. That is a hell of an understatement. Wasn't there some kind of news about that before the Icebrood Saga? Like in the preview stuff about the Icebrood Saga, wasn't there conversation about that? When did this restructuring thing actually first get announced? Let me know in the comments, guys. This feature's been a long time coming. There will be undoubtedly kinks that need to be ironed out with the launch, but making the feature perpetually available to players will allow us to iterate on the system more quickly than the limited beta events we've run previously. For example, we're continuing to hammer out the remaining queue bugs. To further mitigate the queue issue in the short term, we'll add an additional tier to both NA and EU World vs. World, which will reduce the queue length for maps during prime time. As a note, the end of the final relinking period will be extended from May 31st to June 14th. We have a few important changes coming to help prepare for the introduction of World Restructuring. We're increasing the guild membership limit from 5 to 6 to give World vs. World players some added flexibility in creating or joining guilds for World Restructuring. Now that, I think, is a very good idea, because and not just for World vs. World players, for everyone. You know, I'm not too into World vs. World, but now I'm thinking, I can use that 6th slot to maybe get a group together, depending on what we do with our spud branches. Second, we're introducing an in-game timer under the name Next Team Creation Lockout in the guild panel to help communicate to players when changes to battle guilds will take effect. Finally, to help memorialize the worlds we've been battling over for the past 12 years, you'll be able to don a new title to honor them. For example, the Anvil Rock Veteran. These will be... I wonder if they picked Anvil Rock there because alphabetical is at the top of the list, right? These will be available as free one-time purchase from Commander Warraiser in World vs. World. We recognize that the world you consider your true home may not be the world you currently reside on, so we're leaving it up to you to choose the title that means the most to you. Choose carefully. So that is quite cool. I don't know what I'm going to pick. My original server in this was an NA server, Emery Bay. I never really participated in World vs. World with them, but I kind of like the idea of taking one of those titles. I especially like the idea of grabbing an EU title and then transferring over to NA and having like a really exotic looking one that people don't really recognize. You know, that's kind of a fun idea. So they give us a little screenshot of the UI. They say the May 21st update also brings some quality of life and balance adjustments, largely in response to the feedback we've been monitoring since our last round of changes in April. We're continuing to observe the impact of recent changes and expect to iterate more on World vs. World systems in future updates. Again, like I like to hear about all these iterations and changes. So there was some mixed response to this on Reddit, but here's what they say. The health bar for objective lords will now be displayed in the event UI, making their status easier to track. Pro tip, clicking the health bar in the UI will make them your active target. Works for PvE events too. That is a good tip and something I've used many times. They say siege disruptors will now be unblockable. We're increasing the base level and tier 3 supply capacity for keeps by 50 and increasing the amount of supply granted by the supply drops tactic by 100 to add some power back to defending. Now, I think someone like mathed out what you could actually do with some of the supply, and it doesn't sound like it really does that much. They were a bit cynical. And then here they say the Chilling Fog Tactivator now heals allied players every few seconds for its duration instead of chilling enemy players. Now, that last one has had a bit of back and forth discussion with some people saying, you know, the Chilling Fog really only impacted mid-sized groups. Large groups could just get rid of the chill really easily. So this is a good change because it encourages more mid-sized stuff. Other people pointing out that a lot of the chill would get converted to alacrity, so you were essentially buffing the enemies. Other people just cynically think they just did it because ArenaNet wiped once because they were under the effects of chill and that was it. I don't know. You guys can let me know what you think about the impact of this stuff will be. It's going to be a bit weird flavor-wise that it's now Chilling Fog healing us. Couldn't they have just turned it into the Healing Rain effect, right? But I guess it doesn't really matter that much. They say we're also planning a round of World vs. World changes for the July 16th release that are focused on scoring adjustments, but we'll be back in a few months to talk about those. Getting near the end now, next is a section on PvP. Now, I'm not currently playing much PvP. I was into it last summer. You know, I'm very sporadic with it. I'll play a lot of it, and then none of it, and a lot of it. So I'm not too familiar with the current balance right now, post the new weapon update. But I do like PvP in this game. It has been like the dark horse. It's basically abandoned by ArenaNet. You know, they had the big esports push and stuff, so it kind of gets cynically joked on. But I think the gameplay is excellent in Guild Wars 2 PvP, and I really am a bit of a fanatic about it. So hearing that they're actually going to do updates to PvP is mind-blowingly cool to me. Now, I know most of you guys watching this video don't really feel that way. I know how small that scene is. In fact, one of the reasons I don't really PvP anymore is because the scene is so tiny. It sort of sucks to see the same, like, 20 to 70 people across everyone on planet Earth playing in like your skill range, right? Like it's the same. Even there, I'm being generous, you know. It's the same people in every lobby. It kind of sucks, but the gameplay is awesome, and there are a billion really amazing things I think they could do with PvP. So there's actual updates. I mean, and how rarely does this happen? We are a long, long, long way away from when they used to add new maps and so on. So let's see what they say. On June 25th, we'll be introducing some quality of life and reward improvements to preparation for the start of the next rank season on July 2nd. To add some new build options, we're introducing 2 new amulets, the Heretic Amulet and the Tyrant Amulet. Now, you guys can look at their stats. Being out of touch with the current balance and what's possible in the game, I really cannot speak intelligently about what this will add or how it will affect the meta. I will say I'm somewhat cynical that adding a couple of new amulets will really do much, but we'll see. They also say they're adding Ogre and Tormenting runes, but remember, runes aren't really that interesting now that they don't have diversity 6s. So, whatever. On the rewards front, our goal is to make Ascended armor and weapons more accessible in PvP by increasing the number of Grandmaster marks that can be earned each season and decreasing the number of Ascended Shards of Glory needed to purchase them. Now, this isn't interesting to me at all because I already have those skins and I have legendary gear and stuff. For people at the mid-tier who maybe are still earning Ascended stuff, this might be an interesting carrot. But I think people at that level going into Guild Wars 2 PvP these days are just going to get battered and have no fun, especially if the meta is really awkward and ugly. So, to be honest, I think this is a bit of a wash that I don't care about very much. They say we'll also be introducing reward track potions and adding new sources of karma from PvP rewards. That's good because the reward tracks can actually, you know, give you a lot of cash if you pick the right one and do the right thing. And they say, finally, the prestigious coloured titles we've added for World vs. World and Endgame PvE will be updating the Champion Brawler title, awarded for winning 10,000 rated games, to a coloured version. So that's a weird one. Champion Brawler is hard to get. I do have Champion Brawler, so it's kind of really cool to just be given a purple title for free out of nowhere. Like, that's fun. I got Champion Brawler probably like 4 years ago, so it's funny. If I'd kept consistently PvPing since then, I probably could have like got the title twice by now or something. I feel like they could have upped it a bit. Maybe I'm crazy for that but you know, it's like, it was so many years ago I beat this already. When a patch like this comes in, I would like something to work towards. But, you know, they're X number of years late, so to speak. But, of course, that's just my gameplay experience. Other people will have played, you know, more realistic humane hours, which means a bit less. I don't know how many people have Champion Brawler these days. I suspect the pool is getting larger. The other side of it as well is they pick Champion Brawler. You know, famously, you don't really need that much skill to do Champion Brawler because it doesn't require any good tournament wins. It doesn't require any high leaderboard placements. It's just grind away at the game. And so you might say, well, that's a terrible idea. Maybe it should be, you know, the rank 1 leaderboard things or from winning monthlies that gives you the purple titles. But then we kind of get into these conversations as well of how easy it is to game and trick the leaderboards, and did people really earn their stuff and all these kinds of things. Is there any true you know, reward of skill expression in the game when gizmos get sold and accounts get traded and all that kind of shit? And we just go into all these ugly, depressing, lame conversations. So I guess the fact is Champion Brawler is probably an okay title to put it on. At least no one's going to trade their account or something to just grab this straight away. No, you got to put the hours in. And frankly as well, when it comes to people being scumbags and, you know, breaking TOS and stuff like that, none of those bad actors or accounts are probably going to make it to the 10k, so they won't get the special reward. It's kind of like how League has been battling toxicity by making people want to cling onto their accounts more. With long-term objectives they'd hate to lose and can't quickly replace if they get banned. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. 10,000 wins is a bit of a gate. There are very, very good players out there who aren't anywhere near that many wins who will actually have something to work towards. So, yeah, and look, it's just something nice for that format to have. I probably will rep that title in a couple of places just because it's a bit of a novelty having a coloured title. And I guess, in a way, technically, it's my first. Speaking of tournaments, now this is the thing I think's best of all of it. They say in July, we'll adjust the frequency of the daily tournaments to consolidate teams into fewer events and increase competitiveness. So right now, I think it's 3 every 12 hours, so depending on which phase of the day you're awake. But some of them are definitely dead, especially EU versus NA. A lot of tournaments don't proc. The last time I was PvPing, I was really into tournaments. I was having a lot of fun with them, but it was almost impossible to get some of them to proc like late at night. So that's a very good idea. That's a 10 out of 10 idea. They also say we'll add a new weekly tournament event on Sundays in each region that features increased rewards. That's also a 10 out of 10 idea. The game has needed an intermediate, like, fun tournament for everyone to collectively get together for that was more regular than monthlies. A big weekly is a great idea, and they say this seems like a good time to mention we'll also be bringing back the Tournament of Legends event on a twice yearly cadence and bringing back in the near future to confirm the next event date, which is also really cool. So, you know, I've had a lot of ideas of things I've wanted them to do with tournaments. That's all badass. Very happy. And it's weird, guys, I really shouldn't play Guild Wars 2 PvP. I have a very addictive personality when it comes to it, and I spend waste way too much time playing it. But, oh, it is fun, and I like the sound of all this new tournament stuff. And the money is so good as well. Oh, and last of all, they even have this about Jin's Dominion. So Jin's Dominion was the last new map they added, and it clearly needed a bit of work with its special mechanic. You go into the lamp, you get a special ability, but everyone just ignores it, frankly, because it's like the one map where the secondary objective is totally pointless. So they're actually finally getting to that. It's like they picked the torch back up from when it was put down years ago. And look, so they're saying they're going to make some improvements to that secondary mechanic and update the special action skills. Awesome stuff. Really, really happy with that. And again, that to me does not sound like a game that's being sunset. If I can get some assurance that stuff like that is going to continue happening with PvP, I would very sincerely be ready to play a lot more of it. I probably wouldn't be in Guild Wars 1 right now, I'll tell you that much. And I was seriously thinking about getting back into GVGs in Guild Wars 1 the other day when I sold a guy a shocking spearhead so that he could do more damage to warriors that usually resist elemental damage. And I started thinking about my old Ranger Paragon spear chucker build in Team Arenas. Anyway, a couple more sections here on the blog post. They're not that exciting, frankly, so let's just whiz through them. First here, announcement of the next skill and balance update. Our next set of skill and balance updates will arrive on June 25th, so late in the month. We're primarily focused on improving the usability of underpowered skills, utilities and traits, and bringing in outlier builds where necessary. What a shocker. As usual, they'll have a live stream coming up where there's a preview and they'll have release notes. So obviously this is really cool. Skill updates are awesome, and you know they'll be fun to play with in these new PvP tournaments, in the World vs. World update stuff, but you know we don't actually have any details yet, so it's not really news yet. Then in another non-news section, as far as I'm concerned, we have festivals and bonus events where they say Dragon Bash is coming, the PvP season, Sunken Treasure Week, Dungeon Rush bonus, PvP bonus, Living World Season 3 rerun, and then the Festival of the Four Winds. I still don't find myself ever really participating in these bonus rush events. I did a couple in the past. I might do this dungeon one. That was fun to group back up with old friends and sort of reminisce nostalgically and play through dungeons last time. But I'll probably skip the others. I don't know about you guys. And of course, I'll do the festivals. I actually had a lot of fun with it. I didn't really make any content about it, but I did my daily sab this year, and it was very, very satisfying. And so finally, the blog post ends with this. They say, aren't you forgetting something? Oh, right. What happens after the Midnight King? Well, so i.e. the next expansion, Mini-X-Pack 2, which of course many of us are thinking about. You know, I personally said, look, if the Mini-X-Pack format is rough, I will give them at least 2 to see whether it's like a systemic issue or whether they just had kinks and things to work out. And so here's what they say. You'll find out very soon, as it turns out. In the next few weeks, we'll post a development retrospective blog post for Secrets of the Obscure that talks about what we learned from the process and how we're taking those lessons forward into our next expansion. Shortly after that, you'll get your first look at what the expansion has to offer. Between that and everything we talked about, it's shaping up to be a pretty exciting summer. So remember, guys, you know, this next X-Pack is probably closer than we think. So it's very doomery at the moment. You know, I found myself, when I watched the trailer at the start of this video, like scrolling through the comments, and some of the initial comments, you know, seemed vaguely positive, but then it just becomes like this avalanche of sour, upset, disgruntled people who are not enjoying, like myself, are not enjoying this story. Go to the Reddit and it's even worse, you know. It's a very sour atmosphere, and I'm actually a little bit worried about Guild Wars 2 releasing and doing all their marketing for another mini Xack in this vibe. I think a lot of people are going to hold off this time. So this is a really cool idea to do a retrospective. Like, I've always been asking for candor from the studio, and I think this shows some real confidence, and it could be that candor. If they genuinely put a post out and where they say, look, how we split the story up didn't really work, how we themed this didn't really work, how we did the maps. There are 100,000 things that they could have thought about in terms of how they structured metas and achievements and side stories and all that kind of stuff, which I'm really, really, really keen to hear what they think. Now, depending on how honest they are, how much PR speak is in it, it could be a really good blog post. And it might really invigorate people that, like, oh, ArenaNet sees why I'm so disgruntled by the original mini Xack. Maybe they have solved it in the next, and, you know, the next one can be a success. Again, it depends how cynical you are. It could just be an empty blog post, but I will be here for that. You could definitely expect a video on that, because I think that will be very, very interesting. And even just the initiative of doing a retrospective, being a little bit vulnerable, which is kind of baked into that concept, I have respect for. So I like that they're doing that. They also then say, as a final note, I'd like to take a moment to extend a heartfelt congrats to 4 individuals who recently celebrated their 20th year anniversaries. Which is kind of amazing. Guild Wars 1 just had its 19th anniversary. So these are guys that just did their 20th working at the studio, i.e. they were building prophecies, guys. They were working at the studio a year before any of you even picked up the first game, you know. The first expansion, the first campaign of the first game. So these people are Tammy Foote, an environment art lead, Aaron Coberly, I'm sorry to say people's names wrong, an art director, Andrew Frosty Gray, lead designer, and Matthew Medina, narrative designer. Thank you for your undying dedication, creativity, and passion. Here's to many more years of crafting incredible experiences together. And this is another thing I've been asking of ArenaNet with their communications, is for them to just be a bit more savvy as well. Be a little bit more careful in what they communicate and why. And here, I think this is quite a savvy thing to talk about. Again, because one of the big, easy criticisms that people love to just throw around about Guild Wars 2 now is, oh, the whole studio's different. No one from the original game or the original release of Guild Wars 2 or with any talent or any real ideas or any of the who built any of the stuff that I came for, they're all gone. It's all new people now who don't care. They're all interns. They're all people who are underpaid, blah, 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 blah. That's a very common criticism of Guild Wars 2. And here, I don't think it's a coincidence that in this blog post, they're reaffirming, no, look, a bunch of the old hats are working on this game. And again, in the comments for this, people are saying, yeah, you know, if you look at people's LinkedIns, a lot of the old guard from ArenaNet are still there, and that, again, that's heartening, that's invigorating to hear. Well, for some, I guess. Personally, I don't think we should put too much stock into the talents of individual devs or even think about that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, the community does it, so it's a clever thing to put in the blog post. So there you go. So that's the announcement, and also, I really had a bad feeling about this video when I first heard there was the news and the trailer, but actually, I think this was a pretty good blog post, and pretty interested to see where they go, especially with that retrospective. And I'll have a video for that, I assure you guys. Thanks very much for watching. If you've got any interesting thoughts or whatever, please let me know down below. As for my own personal thank yous, I just want to say to anyone who's given my other project a shot, the Zeus series, the Tomb Raider series, the 6 series, some of the other stuff will be coming up. I really appreciate any of you who gave that a shot. I know most people only really came here for me with Guild Wars 2, but that has been absolutely fantastic. So thanks very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you for more stuff very, very soon. Take care now, and have a nice day. Ugh, I probably didn't sound that sick in this video, but my throat is raw. I'm gonna go get some Strepsils.